you run the fermentations and then the distillation. There are many ways to do it. What is the Ferrand way to do that?
Our way is to keep as much as possible from the fermentation in the pot still, which means that when we ferment our wines, okay, we usually have different concentration of lees. You know, the lees, the sediments that appear after the fermentation. We try to keep as many as we can, you know, up to a point where it doesn't affect, you know, the quality of the distillate, so that we can get so much more flavors than if the wine was filtered. By that I mean that usually lees bring more essential oils and organical quinquins, that's the technical term.
Right.
But basically, if you want the fruit in your cognac, you have to make sure that you put the fruit in the pot still.
Okay.
You know, and that's really the rule of thumb. Now, again, depending on the year, some lees will be absolutely awful because the grapes are just not good. So you cannot have the same concentration every year. And even to a higher degree, every year we actually do different concentration of lees that give us different distillates, and we actually blend those distillates together, so that right after the pot still, we start with some kind of consistency.
Do you say right there, okay, this one, when I smell the wine, it's got that character, it's going to make a great réserve. Do you already right there decide what are you going to do with the lees? Will you distill on the lees, or just the light lees, the heavy lees?
We distill everything on the lees. That's the first thing, because to us it needs to be distilled on the lees, otherwise we just don't have the quality that we want in our cognacs.
Right.
And then yes, you know, by analyzing the wine, we'll decide on what kind of lee concentrations we will be implementing this year.
But what are we tasting?
Now I brought something very unusual. That's really brand new to the US. And this is something that our cellar master has been working on for many years now, and finally put it to perfection. Remember when I told you that sometimes, you know, cognacs could be more rustic, and you know, but if they were from a younger age, they had to be blended perfectly. That's exactly what that is. You know, we did some research. We are very fortunate now to have many friends in the craft cocktail community, and these guys opened our eyes to many things, including our history. You know, believe it or not, cognac back in the 19th century was consumed mostly in cocktails.
In the old days, for example, they were using that walnut shell infusion.
Yes.
That would give some astringency and a lot of color too. How would you do it now, that you cannot do this?
Well, first of all, the astringency is not always what you're looking for really in a cognac. You know, most of the time I think there was really something about color. And color today, we have different ways to get it done in the right way. You know, but if we have any kind of let's say astringency, if you want, or some very uncommon taste to reproduce, we will look for it in those old bonifiers, and we will try to capture some rancios from cask that went so far that they actually release some kind of bitterness, bitter elements, you know, that will reproduce that kind of tasting profile. And again, astringency, is it really what you want in a cognac? Maybe that's not what these guys were looking for. You know, at the time, they really had different techniques to please also maybe a different consumer. We don't have to judge this. You know, the most important thing for us is to reproduce that Pinet Castillon that we found so delicious. Now, there is a dosage also, that's something important. And dosage is a very taboo thing that not everybody talks about, Flavien.
Please reveal everything here.
Well, dosage is basically the act of sweetening the cognac. And it's something that is done for many other brown spirits and also some wines like champagne. You know, and it's part of the craft. You know, a great dosage makes a fantastic product. Dosage is a way to season your cognac, like a great chef would add just enough seasoning to a dish. Some people confuse dosage and sweetening the cognac to a point where you want to make it sweeter to hide imperfections.
Right,
this is very different. You know, we're not trying here to hide anything. We're trying to enhance the wine flavors, the wine aromatics from our distillate. It's very, very different.
I always say that when you make a stew, and of the Bœuf Bourguignon style, for example, or even the coq au vin, a little bit of sugar down in the pan, just a tiny bit, will make a whole lot of a difference.
The base tomato sauce is always made with sugar as well, a little bit of it. So that's part also of the techniques that we use. At the time, they had a much higher dosage, a higher dosage that today is not allowed per the AOC again, which is okay, because that's a good thing, because that way people had to use less sugar, so go towards a better quality of the distillates.
Right, right.
You know, and we just reproduce basically that you know, sweeter taste that you can feel in that cognac as well, you know, with blending techniques such as the vieille faible, you know, that that bring, you know, sweeter elements, you know, to our blend. So anyway, that's a very, very interesting cognac. We feel you know, definitely has a
different.
There is one thing that first, you know, we're trying to do is to recreate a taste. We're not trying to recreate a method. We're not trying to recreate a process. We're trying to recreate a taste. Now, that's our take on what the process should be, and you know, how good our recreation of that taste is. Now, what I would say to anybody that you know, doesn't you know, agree on what we're doing, it's like, come to see us in Cognac, and only if you are serious about Cognac, of course, and we'll show you that bottle of Pinet Castillon, and we will do a tasting side by side between that old bottle from the 19th century and that bottle of 1840 Pierre Ferrand. And then they will decide if we succeeded or not. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing, it would be foolish to try to reproduce the process for many reasons. Two reasons: the pre-phylloxera grapes don't exist anymore, so why would you like to have the exact same wine to make the exact same cognac? It's impossible. Second of all, the techniques of distillation. Today, things have evolved towards more precise, more you know, consistent ways of producing a distillate. An example is the fire under the pot still. That flame is so much more efficient and so much more beneficial for all your aromatics that you're trying to get in the cognac if you get it from natural gas.
Instead of wood.
But wood fire was great, of course, when there was the only thing available, but wood fire gives you a curve of temperature that is all over the place, so you can never be as precise or as consistent.
You don't get that same consistency.
No,
well,
no,
then
absolutely.
what about people who would use peat when wood was not available? Back in the days when wood would be sold for a lot of money, and if you didn't have that much money, you couldn't buy wood, and if you didn't have enough oak trees on the property to cut and use to fire the stills, you would use peat that was coming from northern parts of Europe. But in this case, the barrels sitting in that distillery would be quite smoky, because they would have taken those phenolic compounds. So the old ways, I agree with you, are not always the best ways.
No, that's why the old ways, sometimes that's why the old ways are not the ways anymore.
Let's toast to that. Let's toast to that.
Yeah, let's toast.
Because I have the feeling that we need to discover another product.
Yes, yes. I brought you the Sélection des Anges. This we are very proud of. Remember when I told you that the peak of maturity of a Grand Champagne Cognac is 30, 35 years? This is what it is. This is a well-grown-up cognac that's got the best of both worlds. You still have the freshness of the grapes, and you do have all those rancio notes, you know, that you know, gives you so much complexity and richness.
You got to tell us about the rancio a little bit.
The rancio, the rancio is probably the most discussed term in the cognac world today, and also the most unknown term. You know, it's very difficult to define rancio. Rancio, you know what? Let's try today, for the first time ever, to put a definition to rancio. What do you think?
Just for you.
So rancio, according to
you're in a library, after all. If you don't try to get to the dictionary, you're not doing it right.
I love your books, by the way. So rancio, you know, was discovered in Madeira many years ago, and was pronounced for the first time in Madeira to describe some kind of aromatics after the aging of that Madeira wine in cask. So it could be, as a definition, Rancio would be the panel of aromatics formed in a cask with the oxidation or the aging of alcohol.
Right.
You know, and that different panel of aromatics today is used in cognac actually to ID each cognac. Cognac Ferrand distillery, he's 24 people. That's the entire distillery, that's the entire company. So the problem, and that's a big problem for us, we would love to accommodate everybody with a real visitor center and a gift shop, but we cannot because we dedicate all our time to production and to all the things that I just told you about. But you and I know each other, and I would say that everybody that wants to come in and say hello, we are open to them. We just need to know in advance so that we can get organized, you know, make some time in our schedule and make sure that the only guy that speaks English can actually receive, you know, those people that really want to know a lot about cognac. Now, the beautiful thing is that when you come to see us, you will see everything. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't have a beautiful decor because,
well, the distillery is pretty neat.
It has to be clean. You don't get anything nice out of a dirty kitchen. You know, that's very, very important.
I agree with that.
So
and you always put away things that you just used.
Yeah.
You have to be organized and clean.
Mm-hmm.
What is the best time to have cognac? I know you'll tell me there are many best times.
There is not a fixed time to have cognac. Depends a lot on your mood. Depends on the cognac that you have available to you. You know, I would say usually for a cognac like Sélection des Anges, it's more of a meditative time that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to have time to taste this properly.
You cannot rush this.
So do you have time before you go to work in the morning? Not sure. Do you have time after work at night? Definitely. So this is more what we call in France an after-dinner cognac.
Yeah, but hold on, Guillaume. Work never stops. This is New York. There's always work.
Well, then if you go back to work at night, you definitely need one of these. Okay. You're a single malt scotch consumer. If you love single malt scotch, think about how you consume single malt scotch. Then you should consume cognac the same way.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that on that Sélection des Anges, all of you Scotch whiskey drinkers who love your heavy, sherry matured single malts will love this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love this.
You know, a good way to drink cognac, sometimes when you eat, is actually to drink it very chilled.
Right. But then it's a young cognac. No?
Not all the time. Because sometimes if you chill all the Rancio, you get the quality of a very rich white wine. And believe it or not, you could have this with white fish. Just like you would have, let's say, you know, you have an aged Sancerre, right, that has more of the wood quality. See, when you freeze alcohol, you hide it.
And you get a thick, nice mouthfeel.
Well, yes, you know, it's more viscous,
so
definitely.
It says, come a bit more.
Absolutely. Chilling alcohol is a great way to hide alcohol and to hide any kind of texture imperfections.
Well, thanks a lot. Thank you very much for this.
You're welcome.
Guillaume, I guess this is santé to cognac, to the Enzo Share, which is now a wonderful event in cognac happening every year